It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with financial advisors Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. My name is Mike Bernard. I am your host, as well as one of the certified financial planners on the show. Next to me, certified financial planner Josh Gregory, and we've got a special guest in the studio with us today, too.
That's right. Hey, it's money-making season for the body shops out there right now. I hope you and your car are still in one piece so far this winter, but it's winters like this that give us plenty of good reasons to re-examine, rethink our insurance coverages. And today, we have insurance advisor Alysia Boehner back in the studio with us to help us help you rethink some of your most important insurance decisions.
I thought you were going to say these times you want to make sure that you're being nice to your insurance agent, not enlisting them to throw a pen at you, which happened right before we started recording. So anyway, if you have a question for the show, not about why Alysia threw the pen, reach out to us, 574-222-2000. You can call or text online at wisemoneyradio.com. You can submit questions right there on the right. And the full library of previous episodes are right there. And then social media, Wise Money Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and the YouTube channel is up and running. We are kicking today's show off with a question from fan of the show, Jennifer. She's 46. Here's what she asked. My oldest child is in college, and this is his first year having a car at school. Yes, you should be panicking. I'm concerned with these icy roads that the chance of him getting in an accident is higher than it has been in the past. Is there anything I can do with my insurance to make sure we're set up correctly in case something does happen? That's a great question, Jennifer. And with how the year has started out from weather-related issues, there's just plenty of things to touch on here. So we're going to talk about some of these main headlines. While we answer your question, Jennifer, we're going to talk about some of the main themes of 2018 and how that impacts your insurance. But before we get into all of them, let's address your question head on. There's a little pun intended there. So, Alysia, how would you help answer Jennifer's question about child at school? How do we make sure we're appropriately covered?
Well, I think the first thing we need to address is what are your liability limits? Have you taken time to reassess those? Do you even know what liability limits you have to pay for the other person's injuries if someone was hurt? Or what medical payments limit you have for yourself if you were hurt? Kind of looking at that in conjunction with what your health insurance deductible is to make sure your medical payments limit is appropriate. And definitely when we look at younger students, an umbrella is always a good idea to consider that.
Yeah.
And that's going to give you additional liability coverage. So basically lawsuit type coverage if you were to have a serious claim and someone was seriously hurt and you were sued as a result of that. So that's one of the first things I think we need to do is reassess that.
I got a question recently from someone, and a little similar situation as Jennifer here, but her child was just starting driver's training. And she was concerned about her premiums going up. And so she actually said, we probably should drop this umbrella so we don't have to pay for that. And I said, whoa. No, this now is the time when you need that umbrella because the umbrella is added liability protection over and above the liability coverage that's built into your home and your auto policies. It helps give that extra protection in case you cause an accident and are sued. But it also can protect you if you have un- and underinsured motorist coverage on that umbrella, which is a key point.
Yeah.
It can help you if you're in an accident that's not your fault and the person that caused it doesn't have the right coverage.
You know, most people, when they first come into our office and we begin helping them review their insurance, they actually have no idea what their liability limits are. That's one thing I try to quiz them on, and I love playing the guessing game, and we can almost always guess what people have, especially based on which company they're with.
Yep.
There's a lot of cookie-cutter insurance going on out there in our community, and that is one of the things we're trying to do battle with at Korhorn Financial Group is not just putting your insurance on autopilot and not really thinking through it. Because, when you have youthful drivers, and yes, I consider even a college student still a youthful driver, they are, of all the people in your household, it's those new drivers are the more likely ones to be in an accident that can do damage to someone else. And that's why it's so important to have this coverage in place. It's also fascinating to me how many people come into our office. We ask them about these limits, these liability coverage limits, and they still have the same limits they had back when they were 16.
Right.
40 years ago.
Right, as if costs haven't gone up for lawsuits or improvement or fixing up your car, right? That's all gone up, of course.
And the other thing we need to think about, too, in particular when we look at younger drivers, is distracted driving, if we're talking themes for 2018.
Oh, my goodness.
Distracted driving is on the rise, and I actually looked up a statistic for this. Center for Disease Control says each year in the United States, or each day, rather, approximately 9 people are killed and more than 1,000 injured in crashes that are reported involving a distracted driver.
I tell you what, I have my own statistics on that, too. One of the things I started doing, listen.
You're a walking statistic when it comes to vehicles.
Okay,
Josh.
come on. I'm talking about other people here, Mike.
Okay.
Do this experiment with me. As you are driving down the road, look at the eyes of the driver that you're passing coming the opposite direction. On the other side of that dotted line, where are their eyes?
Forward or down?
They are down on a phone.
Yeah.
At least half. At least half. That's my I had someone actually pull out in front of me while looking down at their phone. Like they were crossing 2 lines of traffic to merge into traffic, not even looking. I slam on my brakes. I'm blaring the horn because I'm a defensive driver. I use my horn. I'm going to be a taxi driver in New York City someday. And the guy pops his head up from his phone, makes a certain gesture at me, pointing at the sky. Mm-hmm. And I'm not great at reading lips, but he shouted something about duck stew at me as if I had done something wrong. I just saved the guy's life, right? Yeah. It probably was you, Mike.
Okay, so we've got to talk about more themes here, but what else would we share with Jennifer here, Alysia? What other wisdom do you have to share?
Yeah, so the next thing I had on my list was reassessing your physical damage coverage. So not only do you want to make sure your liability limits are up to snuff, but you want to ask yourself, what is your vehicle worth? When was the last time you Kelley Blue Booked the value of your vehicle to see whether or not your full coverage should be in place? Do you even have full coverage if you're worried about your younger student wrecking the vehicle? Does the deductible make sense for the value of the vehicle if the value of the vehicle has gone down? Just kind of reassessing the physical damage coverages to make sure what you have makes sense for your budget, and also the deductible based on the value of the car.
Yep, you want to reassess all of that with kids at school and the vehicle that they have at school. So anything else for kids at school that you would suggest to Jennifer before we move on to other trends happening in the insurance world in 2018?
One last thing I think is just making sure if your student has roommates that you have addressed that with the insurance company, because companies can be very particular if you have more than one person living in the same place about whether or not those people have to be disclosed. Definitely, if they will be driving the vehicle on a regular basis, you need to make sure you disclose those people to the insurance company. But I say be safe anyway and just call your agent and find out, hey, I have these roommates with my college student. What do we need to do? Do we need to add them? Do we need to rate them? Do you need a copy of their policy?
Does that increase your cost?
It depends. It depends on the company and whether they require them to be listed as a driver. Sometimes they'll let you exclude them, which means you basically all agree they're not going to drive the car. You all sign off saying this person's not going to drive the car. There will be no coverage in place if that person were to wreck the vehicle. And sometimes they will let you list them as a disclosed household member by providing a copy of their own insurance, and they don't rate for them. So it could be any of those 3 things depending on the carrier.
Here's my concern, though. If you're just doing insurance online because of those hilarious commercials from some of these companies, then you might have missed that. And you've heard me share this story before. So my senior year at Michigan State, we lived in a house. There were 5 of us. And there was a driveway, but it was just one, you could fit one car in there. So we all had our cars stacked up. Right. So you never wanted to be the last one home, because anytime someone needed to run somewhere, they would take the last car. One of my roommates drove the wheels off of my other roommate's car. Right. I'm not kidding. Went to McDonald's to grab some food, got a flat tire, changed the tire, and put the wheel on backwards. As he's driving through the intersection, the wheel comes off, causes an accident.
Wow.
Truly, you want to make sure that you're not guessing on this. Talk to your insurance agent. Make sure things are set up. Speaking of car accidents, we have had a frigid start to 2018. What does that mean for your insurance? We've got that and more coming up with Alysia Boehner here on Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group.
Baby out there? Come on.
Come on in.
Here we go.
Good morning.
Alysia, Josh, Mike, Daniel.
Hi there.
Hello.
Welcome to the party. Which microphone do you want?
No.
Oh, easy. I thought you were.
We thought you were a special guest.
We canceled the meeting with Bill. You're coming in, and we're a special guest on the show. Just kidding.
It's a new reality TV show. We actually do your financial planning live. Wouldn't that be something?
Okay, so Shannon, you're thinking of maybe doing pictures, maybe?
Yeah, I was just coming to see what the light situation was.
Yeah.
Is this all the studio light?
This is everything.
This is it.
This is it. Yep.
Those we can turn up or down, but it messes up. So the camera Casey told us to get is awful. I'm just kidding. No, the video camera that we use, the Mevo, is just, I don't, maybe they all are, but it's sensitive to light. And so that's the right temperature to have us not look glowing on the video. But if you need it higher or lower for a couple shots, we can do that quickly or whatever.
Okay.
What date is this?
This one's the 20th, yeah, Jan 20. Think it'll be okay?
See, yeah, I mean, that's the backdrop. I just didn't know if Jeff was going to want to use that backdrop.
He's not. We're gonna put up a gray
Okay,
or
you
a
have a
black.
different- Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't need to worry about backdrop. You got that covered.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about it. That was like the first thing. I don't do green screen.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Right. No,
All right,
that's
so as long
that's
as
cool.
he's gonna have a backdrop, so she wanted to see the light and just kind of make sure that.
Yeah, I mean, I can bring an external light too, but if I don't need it, I might just bring it anyway.
Did you talk to him about? I mean, is he just wanting some action shot, or just does
I
he
don't.
want?
I don't know.
Does he want to pose
He
like?
kind of pinned that on you.
Did he
Um,
pose? No.
So I didn't.
He pinned it on me.
Yeah, he's like, I think
Of
he
course.
wants me to do this and that.
Carol Ann.
Then we moved on to voiceover work and that sort of thing.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so it can work next Thursday morning.
The 11th is when he would be doing it, so that's Thursday. It'd be next Thursday.
I think we're getting rolling at 8:30. He wants to do 3. What can work for you? Can that work?
Is Bree's back in school then, right?
So am I doing photos while you're all are on the air? Is this like?
No, I don't think so. Your deal can be really short. I was told, I didn't make up, I was told he wants a picture or two for his blog and website. So I'm assuming one, you could have him kind of pretending like he's talking, so it wouldn't be on air, and then maybe one smiling at the camera or something like that, and then you're out of here. I mean, it's a piece of cake.
Okay.
I know. I asked him, I
And
said,
then you have to come up with a rate, because I got to send him the rate.
I'll send that to you to send to him or whatever. Maybe they don't like me anyway, so.
I don't think it'll.
no, it'll be,
I don't think it'll be a problem, money wise so I would charge whatever you would normally charge somebody.
yeah.
Okay.
And then it's not going to be a lot of time. And so I'm assuming he's going to want a couple where he's smiling, looking at the camera, but then a couple where he's kind of pretending like an action shot, and then piece of cake.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured.
And then if is Bree back in school on the 11th?
She goes back Monday or Tuesday.
Well, the 11th is Thursday, next Thursday.
Yeah, then she'll be back.
Okay, so
then I'll just
drop her off, head over here. I can take Harper out of the room while you do photos, and then we can swap, and then we'll record. That sound okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool.
All right.
If you take the work, or if you take the work, and if he hires you.
Right.
Yep.
You shall.
Yep.
You could always be like that business that I work with. Oh, I've got a Samsung Galaxy S6. It has a great camera on it. I'll do that instead.
Kevin pretty much insisted that he use you because he was like, "You're going to use Shanna." So. All right, so do you want to press play there, Casey, and then you can check it out?
All right, so I'm on record. I'll hit record right now.
Okay.
And then all I need you guys to do at the end of the segments is just pause for a little bit so I see the little gap in there. That's it.
Yep.
And then you can banter, and that's okay.
Okay,
And then pause a little bit, and then start the new segment.
got
As
it.
long as I see that space, I'll know where I have to go in and start looking to cut.
And I'll stop it at the end of the show. And you want me to put it in box
No, just save it.
to temp?
Yeah, just save it to temp,
Okay,
new audio file,
yep,
and then start over.
okay,
And then once I hop back in here, we'll get it all sorted out.
sweet,
Yeah, don't worry about editing or box or any of that stuff. I'll take care of that for you.
sweet. Thanks, man.
All right.
Hope I don't leave you with PTSD.
Yeah, what in the hell?
Pen PTSD.
I'm gonna get that checked out if there's some kind of trauma back there.
All right, we're going to pick things up with the cold weather
All right, it's recording now.
and what all that means. Cool.
You hitting the head with it?
Threw it at my head.
Are we going anywhere with the?
You probably deserve it.
I thought you had fire on here too, but
Yeah, isn't that next?
oh, maybe.
Yeah. So let's pick up with cold temps, and then we'll go into the fire stuff. So I'm assuming, Alysia, we've got the full 3 segments,
I think so.
and that'll be good. First one went well. So, okay, you guys ready? With all of these freezing temperatures, are you prepared from an insurance standpoint? We've got that coming up here in just a second. This is Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard, next to Josh Gregory and special guest insurance expert Alysia Boehner here in the KFG studios. Special thanks to the attorneys at Ledoux, Kern & Keene, as well as First State Bank for making the Wise Money Show possible. If you've missed anything so far, you can catch up on all of the episodes right there on the website, wisemoneyradio.com, or on the YouTube channel or on podcast. So all of that, just search Wise Money Radio right there as well. Lastly, if you have a question, insurance often sparks a lot of questions. 574-222-2000, call or text. So it's just been a frigid start to 2018. That's what my wife was expecting. I was hoping it would be a little more calm, but she said you're going to be out there shoveling a lot.
How
And,
does she know that?
I don't know, but
Farmer's Almanac.
she's
That's
kind of
right.
actually next time you talk to her about her dream of being a meteorologist. She just loves
Oh,
weather
wow.
and
Funny.
predicting, and
She'd be
and-
good at that.
All right, so what are all the risks, and they're diverse, that you need to be aware of with frigid temps? Alysia, let's run through them. What's
Okay, so let's start with automobiles.
okay?
If we're talking automobiles, slide-offs are common. Rear-ending people, common. We traveled from Madison, Wisconsin back to Indiana this last week, and we passed a major accident on the toll road with multiple semis. Multiple people had then slammed their brakes, hit other people. Tons of cars involved in that crash. And so I think the biggest thing is defensive driving. Give yourself plenty of time. Don't follow people too closely. Be careful of black ice. And know that any time you slide off the road and you strike any object, that's going to be considered an at-fault accident. So that definitely has implications on what your insurance costs may do in the future, which means they might go up as a result of that.
So you're driving down the road and you need to turn. You turn the wheel and your car keeps going straight into the tree.
Exactly.
Is that collision or comp?
That's collision.
That's collision. So there again, I mean, making sure that you've got the right deductibles in place, making sure that you have the right coverage, because the other thing, you pass this multi-car pileup. That's one accident when it comes to your property damage. Am I right? Or does it depend on the carrier?
Nope.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that your liability coverage is where it needs to be, but that property damage, you want to make sure that that is adequate. You might look at that number and say, I'll never have an accident with a car that costs that much money. Well, if there's a multi-car,
Right.
you
Good
got
point.
you need to have a lot of coverage there.
That's exactly right. Another thing that we see a lot, I had this, I think I'm the poster child for the freezing temperature problems this year. Car won't start. Vehicles stuck in the garage. My husband's car has been down and out because it won't start because of the cold temperatures. So towing is a silly thing, simple thing, but it's a good thing to just relook at. In particular, if you have a younger student or someone that you wouldn't want to have deal with that if they're out on the road, or someone that's elderly maybe, making sure you know how much it will cover, how far it will take you. Your policy could be different. It could pay based on a dollar amount or a mileage limit. So making sure you kind of understand that. And then the last thing we see a lot in the winter is cracking windshields, like a little chip that now spreads into a big crack. So that's considered comprehensive coverage, or some people call it other than collision, depends on who you talk to, but that would be covered by comprehensive or other than collision. So if you have liability only, you're not going to have coverage for that.
What does a new windshield cost?
It depends on the car.
Yeah, and whether or not it's got electronics and stuff. Yeah.
The low end is $200 to $300 if it's not full of electronics in it, but I've heard of them being over $1,000 with a lot of the new detection devices and heated tempered glass and all of that.
I've often wondered, does it make sense to turn in an insurance claim for a broken windshield?
Right.
Because it puts a black mark on your insurance history, right? And, it's a mark against you, and if you start accumulating those things, you may pay higher rates or worse, get dropped by an insurance company. So do you turn in the little Mickey Mouse stuff, or does it make sense to maybe have your deductible on that comprehensive coverage that you said? Again, there's 2 deductibles on your on your car insurance. Comprehensive versus a collision with another vehicle or another object. And, you need to look at how you structure those deductibles. There's no point in setting it at $100 or $250 if you would never turn in a claim that small anyway.
Right. And the one thing to kind of know is an other than collision loss or a comprehensive loss, the insurance companies view that a little differently than an at-fault accident. So you may see a rate increase because of that, but you might not. It just depends on the carrier. So you don't really know. But where you can get into trouble with the towing losses and the other than collision losses is if you have multiple. So you have a glass claim, and then you have a tow, and then you maybe have another tow, and then you have an at-fault accident. That is going to be a huge red flag if it's within a 2 to 3 year period, and companies are not going to like that. So.
That's one of the reasons why we think of your home and your automobile insurance first and foremost as protection against the lawsuit coming at you. Right? Not about getting the fender bender fixed or those are aggravations in life that can wreck your day, but the things that will wreck your financial future are when you hurt another person, they can't work anymore, or they're killed in an accident or something. Those are the things that you don't bounce back from.
So speaking of that, let's turn the attention to the house. Also with these freezing temps are frozen sidewalks. And what about the slip and falls happening at the house, people getting together, friends coming over, there's a slip and fall. I mean, that's another big risk with these cold temperatures.
Yeah, and I would say with those, you need to do your best to maintain your property. One thing that will make you a poster child for a lawsuit is if you have done nothing to help protect your property, meaning you've not been shoveling your sidewalk, you've not done your best to put, salt down. Josh is already laughing. So I was out there shoveling this past week because we have a bus stop just down the corner, and we have a lot of people traipsing up and down our sidewalk, so I do my best to try to keep it clear to avoid that. So make sure you're maintaining your property. And, in some cities, they require it as part of the ordinance anyway. But again, liability coverages, we go back to what type of liability coverage do you have? What type of medical payments coverage do you have? On the auto, medical payments pays for you and passengers in your car. But on property insurance, medical payments is only paying for other people that don't live inside your household. So that kind of works hand in hand with your liability coverage. You want to make sure both those numbers are at a good level or high enough to absorb if you had some sort of serious claim. And then another thing that I had is making sure if you're a business that your contractor has appropriate insurance. So if you have someone that's plowing your parking lot for you, making sure that that snow plower has appropriate coverage, because you don't want to be the person that's throwing a lawsuit at someone unnecessarily, but that's a way you can help transfer some of that risk from you to someone else as a business owner if you want to be prudent there.
Yeah, we know we've had some inside information as to how many claims some of these huge businesses get in the winter from people slipping and falling in the parking lot.
Oh yeah.
It is astronomical how many claims these businesses get. If you're a small business owner, you want to make sure that you've got the right protection. A couple other small things when I think about these cold temps: freezing pipes as well as weight of the ice or snow buildup on your roof. Can you speak to those risks a little bit, Alysia?
Yeah, freezing pipes is going to be covered by most homeowners insurance companies. with a few exceptions. So you want to make sure you're always maintaining utilities in your home. Your insurance company is not going to feel sorry for you, and they may deny a loss if you have not maintained proper utilities at your house. So if you have, we see this a lot with secondary residences, people that have a lake house, they turn off the utilities in the winter, and some of them winterize and they winterize well, but maybe others don't. So make sure that you know whether or not your policy will cover if you disconnect your utilities for any part of the year. The other thing is vacancy provisions. Things like freezing pipes suddenly are not covered if your house is considered vacant. So anytime you're no longer living somewhere, you need to make sure you notify your agent of that right away, because your policy may not cover the way you think it will.
A lot of people hide that fact because they're afraid that their premiums are going to go up.
Right.
And maybe they will. But I'd rather pay a little bit more, have the insurance right, and that way if there's a problem that arises, it's being covered.
Well, and educate yourself. You may find this in some situations you can't get coverage for a certain thing, but then you know what you're looking at, you know what risk you're taking financially, and that helps you make a good decision about whether or not you hang on to that property, or in some cases, maybe it's worth it to lower your price on your house a little if you've been trying to sell it and it hasn't sold. It depends on the financial situation, but...
Yeah, what a resource. I mean, we talk about it on the show. Financial planning should provide you with confidence, clarity, and creativity, and you're hearing that right here from our insurance expert, Alysia Boehner. What about some other trends we're going to get into in just a second? Airbnb. Have you taken an Uber? What risks are you exposed to there? We're talking about insurance trends that you need to be on top of. That and more coming up here on Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group.
I got to go home and plow. I need to go, scrape the snow off my roof. Our roof is not real steep. So when the snow comes down, it is there permanently. Yeah. We are kind of in the woods, and so there's not wind to take it off. It's going to be there until I either take it off or it melts.
I don't know if that was enough break there for Casey to see that they're...
It's really teeny, so if you want to do one right now...
That's fine.
A real one.
Okay. So we are...
You want to write down the time or something for him?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks. Okay, so do we need to talk about fire, or should we just talk about those other themes?
I mean, I feel like we've covered the apartment question before.
Yeah, great.
So I don't think we need to cover the apartment question personally, unless you guys think it's been long enough, but it felt like we'd covered that before, or maybe it was on the agenda.
I would assume that most people didn't hear it or have forgotten, or so I think it's good.
Let's hit it quick. So we're basically starting the third segment, but on the outline, we'll start with the second segment. So we're right there. But let's do the fire one quick, and then because those other themes, Alysia, I'm excited to
Before you answer your theme, can I work my little story in?
Yeah, I don't know where it'll fit.
I'm going to just make it fit somehow.
Good. Cool.
And you're listening not as my insurance agent, okay?
Oh, Josh.
All right.
It's not like a lawyer where they can't share it.
All right. So let's pause here. All right, ready? I have been warned here that we've got an insurance pig question coming up here from our own Josh Gregory. This is Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard, next to Josh Gregory and special guest insurance expert Alysia Boehner here in the KFG studios. Want to say special thanks to Bethel College Adult and Graduate Studies, as well as Diane Bennett with RE/MAX 100 for partnering with us, making the Wise Money Show possible. If you have any questions, we want to hear from you. 574-222-2000. You can call or text, or visit us online, wisemoneyradio.com, or on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, at Wise Money Radio. So we've been talking about insurance themes for 2018. So far, it's all been weather-related. The weather's awful, if you ask me. Beautiful to look at. but awful to live in, and especially protect against from an insurance standpoint. One of the other themes that we've heard a lot of this year, sadly, and I've seen a lot of it on the news, New York City, other thing, apartment fires. And so
scary.
it is very scary. So what do you need to do to make sure you're protected in that situation? Alysia, real quick.
You need to make sure you have purchased renter's insurance. So, number one, you want to know that you have a renter's insurance policy in place. This is one of the most common things that people will just forego completely. And it baffles me because it's one of the least expensive policies to purchase. I mean, a renter's insurance policy will cost you, on the low end, a couple $100 a year. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is well worth it because a lot of the, explanation we get, people will say, well, I don't have a lot of stuff, or they're fresh out of college and their stuff isn't worth anything. Well, that might be true, but think about if you lost everything. I mean, we're talking your toothbrush, your underwear, all of your kitchen, everything. That adds up very quickly, and to go buy that is very expensive. So not only do you want it to cover yourself, but the other thing is you might end up being inadvertently liable.
I was just going to ask
for
about
other
that.
people. So if you cause that fire, you left a candle burning or something like that, and another apartment has smoke damage or the building has damage, the first thing they are going to do is ask you to cover some of those damages.
Yeah.
And no renter's insurance means no coverage for that, no protection for that.
Yep. So that's a warning out there to all of you who are listening, who are renting right now, and also for all of you listening who have kids in college or kids that are renting. Not a warning, but just an encouragement. Make sure you get that coverage. I'm guilty of that. When I moved here from Michigan State, my first year, I did not have renter's insurance, but I did very quickly when I understood what was at stake, and it was worth the couple $100. So, all right, some other themes of 2018 or this day and age, Alysia, what do you have for us?
Oh, I've got a theme brewing at my house right now that
no.
actually I need to ask you about.
Here it is.
Whenever
No.
Josh has a theme, I cringe a little bit internally and externally.
So what coverage is there for destructive pigs that will not stay in their pen?
Josh.
I seriously, I have two of my pigs. I have more than two
This
pigs.
isn't
I'll
an
say.
analogy for you
No.
listening. This isn't
a friend,
sick
one of my
reference.
friends.
No, this is me. Two of my pigs. They're the smallest two, but they're not really small. They're like adolescent pigs. So they've got kind of that teenager
Insidious.
mentality, rebellious. They won't stay in the pen. Somehow they figured out which electric lines are working and which ones aren't, and so they keep getting out. They have torn up my entire yard. My front yard looks like the surface of the moon right now. Seriously, I mean, these animals, they have a shovel on the end of their face, and they use it.
Okay, so Alysia, is there any, what is this, insurance for stupid? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It feels that way today.
Is there anything?
When the livestock are smarter than the farmer, they need to go in the freezer.
Oh, that's
there
a
you
good
go.
point.
Maybe that's cheaper than
Time
the
to
coverage.
eat the friends.
Mike, have you ever looked at your bacon and thought, what kind of trouble are you going to get into today?
I haven't.
That's what I feel when I look at my bacon and pork chops and these little suckers.
That is a theme. People, with the economy doing well, people are more interested. Maybe you are interested in buying land, and when you do so, you may be having your own little farm. And it's important.
not worth it.
We've talked
do it.
about this on the show before. Alicia has shared as strange as your little pet projects, get that? Your pet projects might become on your farm, or as innocent as you think they are. Talk to your insurance agent.
Right.
Make sure that they're aware that you just got bees.
Right.
And yes, they might die soon because you don't know how to take care of them. But that you have them covered, or horses or pigs and all of that, right?
Right.
Yeesh.
And also, just Josh, so you know, landscaping, really hard to cover under homeowners
Yeah, I
insurance.
know.
So I don't think your yard moon is going to be covered.
The farmer's
Sadly.
wife is not very happy right now.
Yeah.
I will say it that way.
All right.
But definitely incidental farm coverage, that's one thing that you want to look at for that. So make sure that if you have any livestock or animals or anything out of the normal, you just ask your agent and you figure out whether the quantity of animals you have will meet the homeowner's insurance requirements. Because most companies are okay with animals, a few. It's when we start adding them up And
Or
we
when they
forget to-
start visiting the neighbors
Yeah.
and destroying their yard next.
Yeah, you just want to make sure that your homeowner's policy will respond properly and that you will have coverage. And also, the other thing we see is getting loose and get hit by a car. And then
Yeah.
that's a totally other thing you want to make sure you're protecting yourself against. So,
Yep.
What about some other themes for 2018?
yeah, when I was thinking about themes for 2018, one of the big ones that came to my mind is we're seeing this insurgence of things like Uber and Lyft and Airbnb. And even in our area in particular, I know a lot of folks will rent their houses out just for a weekend for Notre Dame, or to an individual will rent a room. So that's one thing that I think we're going to start to see more of. It's not as common, the Uber and the Lyft in our area, but I think we're going to see more and more of it in the future. And insurance policies are very tricky when it comes to that. And we've had a number of clients that have asked about it. So I've done a little bit of research on the subject, and I think that it's something you definitely want to talk to your agent about, because there are some gaps in coverage. Uber, for example, they do offer an insurance policy for you. But where it can get really tricky is before you've picked someone up.
So you're talking about if you're a driver for Uber?
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
We've had clients that are using Uber, and before you pick someone up, they offer on their policy $50,000 per person, $100,000 per accident.
Whoa, that's very low coverage.
That's very low coverage. So now here's the problem. Now you are, in essence, someone that is, transporting people.
Yeah.
A normal personal auto policy doesn't offer that coverage, generally speaking. So
If you're getting paid to take someone somewhere, then there's no coverage there on your normal car insurance.
That's correct. So what Uber says is, hey, we want to make sure you're covered. We're going to cover that for you. But they don't really want to cover you fully until you have a passenger in your car. So there's that little time frame before you've picked someone up, you're on what they call a request or online, and before you pick them up, that they offer a 50-100 limit. That's low.
That's very low.
That's so low. So that's not going to be enough. And there's a chance that your company will deny a loss if you're online and haven't picked someone up yet. So that's a gap in coverage that we want to make sure you've disclosed and that you figure out how to cover that gap. So then you're on your way to pick up a rider. They do offer a pretty good limit there, $1 million in liability coverage when you're on your way to pick up a rider or once a rider is in your car. So, there is some coverage there for that. But the big gap is right at the front end there where you're online and you haven't picked somebody up
And
yet.
you're still driving, and possibly you've got your phone there stuck to the dash.
Yeah.
You're looking at that. That's distracted driving. Those
Yep.
odds increase there of the accident. So there's really no difference in your risk whether you're on the clock but you don't have a passenger in, or you've got a passenger. The risk is the same. It's
Right.
just your coverage there is wildly different.
Right. And the other thing is, too, so, I've had people say this to me, well, then I just wasn't online when I have that accident. Well, you can say that, but that's insurance fraud. And if you get caught, there's going to be fines and penalties. And I don't know that you want to go there. And the thing of it is, it's becoming so common that a lot of insurance companies offer a simple endorsement to cover it.
Interesting.
So instead of hiding it or not telling your agent about it, just have the conversation. Find the company that makes sense for you. There's so many different carrier choices. You might have to change insurance companies. Is it a hassle? Yeah. Is it worth it? I think so. Absolutely.
That's good words to live by no matter what the situation.
Right.
Yeah. What about if you're a passenger in an Uber car? I mean, do you need to worry about any insurance issues there?
Well, if you're a passenger, that $1 million is available. So that's what the whole point is there.
Okay.
So they would be able to pick up there, and their own medical payments coverage would supply some. And so, yeah.
So you brought up the Airbnb issue, renting a room out of your house or renting your house for a weekend. We've got that coming up, as well as a great question from someone about, okay, I'm getting older. Should I put my car in my kid's name so that the insurance premium will be cheaper? We've got that and more coming up with special guest Alysia Boehner here on Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group. Cool.
It feels like maybe sometimes you're getting quieter.
Me?
Yeah. And I've been trying to,
Sorry.
every once in a while, like, give you a sign, but I don't think it's worked at all yet.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not seeing your signs.
All right. We'll pick
Telepathy.
We'll pick back up I want to hear about the Airbnb stuff and what you should do, because I've had some clients that are doing this, and I've had several that for the first time ever have said, "Yeah, my house is renovated. I'm gonna put it out there on Rent Like a Champion and book a weekend or two."
I looked them up.
And I wanna hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah,
So let's do
I didn't
that.
do every single rental company, but I looked a bunch of them up last night and pulled their policies to read through the exclusions and see.
Thank you. That
what's-
is
and
awesome.
I kept copies of their policies too, so that we have them on file to reference back to. But I wanted to. I was looking for. Isn't Irish Realty one of the big ones that does the Notre Dame stuff?
I think so.
I couldn't find that one online, so I don't know what theirs
So
is.
YouTube, this is, I mean, you just heard the research that Alysia did. I mean, this is what you get when you get an insurance agent. That's what you want. That's what you want from someone who's going to research on your behalf. I know so often the determining factor is what's it going to cost.
Yeah.
It's got to start with what's the coverage? How am I living my life? And then what are the coverage needs that I have?
Airbnb is actually their coverage is really great. So
Cool.
theirs
All right.
is good.
Well, we'll pick that up, and then we'll pick the question that you had. I'm having it from unknown, that you had Lance slack me, the one that I mentioned just a
Oh,
moment
it's
ago.
from a client?
Yeah, I listed it as unknown, but that's fine. We can,
Yeah, that's actually... Okay.
I just copied and pasted what he put in there.
He didn't frame that right, but...
Is that, in essence, what it is?
Yeah, it is. I actually...
Did you
we
rewrite
see
it?
that question... No. We see that question more from the recipient's standpoint as opposed to our clients asking. So...
Well, you can ask the question however
But
you want.
that was... So that was a question from a client, then you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a
I
question.
know who he's referring to, but he didn't frame it right.
Are we? Should I have any? Like, should I not be using particular names of?
Of companies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd use it sparingly.
Okay.
Don't be worried about it. But
Okay.
okay,
And
so
then just try to stay right in front of this sucker.
Sorry.
fourth,
I'm not a celebrity
Fourth
like you,
segment, we're landing the plane. I want to pick back up with the Airbnb stuff, and then I definitely want to hit that question. I mean, if that takes the 10 minutes, I think that's great. I mean, we have more questions here. You know, the one here from Becky, that doesn't pertain to really insurance. So
Right.
I don't know if we'll get into that or not, or even if we should. So, all right. If you do an Airbnb of a room or your entire house, do you have the right coverage? Are you at risk? What sorts of risks? And are you covered properly? We've got that great question coming up. My name is Mike Bernard, next to Josh Gregory, and special guest insurance expert Alysia Boehner here in the KFG studios. This is Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group. If you've missed anything, we've been talking about different insurance themes for 2018 and what issues you need to consider. And then sit down and talk to your agent and your certified financial planner to make sure you've got the right coverage in place. If you've missed anything, check out the show on the YouTube channel at Wise Money Radio or wisemoneyradio.com or on podcast, Google Play, and iTunes, Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group. And really, just again, I would encourage you to ask questions of your agent. You can't do so if you're just using a company online. You want to talk through these sort of unique situations to make sure you've got the right coverage. We went through, I've got a student in college. Well, you might want to have a conversation with your agent if they're renting and they have roommates. We talked about other cold weather issues. We've talked about Uber and Lyft and whether you're driving in those and what protection you have. Now let's go to the next theme, which is Airbnb, or you said what's popular around here. And I personally have had more clients tell me in this last year than any year I can remember that they're renting their house out for a Notre Dame game.
Right.
So what do you do? How's that handled, Alysia?
Okay, so the short-term rentals, I did some research on this, and it is all across the board what they will cover. So some of the companies actually offer a pretty good policy that even will protect your home itself up to $1 million.
Whoa.
Some of them offer nothing other than a security deposit. So do your homework. Make sure when you are choosing a company that you're going to enlist to rent your house with And I would encourage you to use some sort of professional service for that, because if you do it yourself, your homeowner's policy is not going to offer business coverage for that. Almost all carriers will deny. We have one company out of our 8 or 9 that will offer any property protection. So if that tenant destroys your house on a weekend, you're just out of luck, other than one of my companies.
So you're saying don't do this on Craigslist because A, you might be crazy, and B, your insurance might not be. Because I think Craigslist created the dark web right there. It is a strange place. But you're saying go through a company.
So I would advise you to go through a rental service. They're going to take a fee, I'm assuming, but I think it's worth it to pick up that insurance protection that you need to make sure you're protecting not only yourself, but also the other people. If there's an injury in the house, now it's not on your homeowner's insurance record too. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is part of the reason for using one of those types of services is that there's an extra layer of protection. Now, if there is a claim, that's not hitting your homeowner's insurance, it's hitting their insurance. So you're not going to be the one that's paying a rate increase or, higher insurance costs for the next 5 years if something does happen and someone is hurt or your property is damaged in any way.
Josh, have you done Airbnb?
No.
Okay.
It scares me.
So I did.
We just did it in Madison.
Did you really?
We did.
And good experience?
Ours was a terrific experience.
So this isn't an endorsement for Airbnb, but we did. A friend of mine started a business down in New Orleans last year, and a bunch of us friends all surprised him and went down for the grand opening. It was awesome. And we ended up getting an Airbnb right across from his house in New Orleans, which was pretty cool. It totally a surprise to him. But we all behaved, and I was in bed early. That you guys would all expect that from me.
You're middle-aged.
You'd expect that from me. But it's a bunch of us guys that grew up together and our wives, and there were 12 of us in a house. The house was beautiful. But you're talking about the risk if you open up your home for Airbnb. What if you're a user of the service and you go and you Airbnb at someone else's place and there's an accident?
Right.
Something happens.
Right.
And here
You burn their house down?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, there was late night pizzas in the oven, and what if someone forgot that they did that? Or what if we left the door unlocked because we were going in and out and a stranger came in and ransacked the place? I mean, yes, you're talking about if it's your house and you put it on Airbnb, there's coverage. But if you're a tenant and something happens on your watch, are you negligible, or does that insurance, could that insurance company sue you as the tenant, say you should have been more responsible?
Yeah, they definitely could come after you personally. Like I mentioned, there are some entities that offer property coverage up to $1 million. So odds are what would happen is they would go back to the Airbnb, whoever actually owned the property would go back to Airbnb and ask for it to be made right, and they would provide coverage for the property itself. But one thing that I did notice that was interesting that isn't covered is bed bugs.
Yeah.
Oddly enough,
goodness.
which, I guess that's something gross to think about, but that could happen. And if you were the person renting the house out to someone else, one thing that I noticed that was a common exclusion that I hadn't really thought of was liquor liability. So
right.
I don't know much about how those work. I'm a little naive. I've only used one or two times, but I don't know if, kind of like Uber, it's become the thing where now you offer baked cookies or whatever to get the business. So I don't know if that's something that Airbnb people do or not to try